All right, good afternoon. So I'm going to use the sandbox to show how you can create a non-English Primo view for your library. Um, so here we go. Okay, so in Discovery and configure views, and this is the first way, and it doesn't create, it just creates another language option for your whichever view you're creating. It's not a totally separate view with like separate search profiles or anything like that, which might be what you want, and I can show you some examples of that. So we have this view, and we're going to go into edit, and the default language, we have either English or Spanish, but we have both of them. And that is because the language choice got turned on. And where that got turned on, of course, is, so if we go into configuration, general, and institution languages under general configuration, this is where you can turn on various languages. Now, these languages will end up affecting the search language facets, the available Primo views. I'm not quite sure what else, but it's not just for Primo. So we have English and Spanish turned on, and if you wanted to turn on a different one, for example, say we want Korean. So we would do customize, which allows us to turn it on. And then we say save. So now if we're back here in our view, now we will see that Korean is also an option. So just by doing this and then setting the links menu options to include a language swap between, which I also can't remember how to do right now, you can create essentially, and I can show you here, I've got one. Where is the, so, oh shoot, this probably isn't the best way to find this. So by doing this, you can choose, nope, that's, where's the language one? Just, okay. Menu. Ah, here was, it was just hiding behind the camera. So, in your so they have, so by turning on those options, you can add this menu option to your Primo. So, now I change it to English and boom, yay. So that is in here, and they must actually, okay, just kidding. This is gonna be a great training, guys. So, for some reason I was thinking that it would just do it, but I don't think, okay, so to do it, you do have to duplicate, um, your existing and make any changes that you want. So now we have this one, we edit this one, we change the language to Spanish, we say save, it's an exact duplicate, but now we have um, this code. Yes, I saved it. So we can go to view, and now under here, we can add a link menu for different language. And we're going to call this Spanish. And now we can put this. Oh, sure, there's a way to put it all the way at the bottom. And then because I want to actually be able to see it, I'm gonna. Okay. So now we have a Spanish language link in our regular view. Ta-da! And now when we click on this, this is where some of the content will automatically get translated, but not all of it. So if we search here, we see, gosh, I may not have actually set up the Sandbox Primo to pull records from there. Okay. So you can see that this stuff is translated. The labels are translated. And okay, now why did it work this time? That wasn't there before, was it? Am I imagining it?
What wasn't there?
So, because the first time I went into this menu, like went to view and I went to menu, I didn't see the display language option just switch between them.
I did.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was just hiding behind. So, but it is kind of hidden. And so if you wanted to make it easier to find, you can completely create a different view. And this is something, here we can get into like actual so Big Bend, because they have Spanish language materials and a Hispanic serving institution collection. Amanda wanted to create a Spanish view that included an extra search profile that wasn't in their standard one. So if we go to their discovery and views, you can see she's created a main view Spanish and a version 1. And if we go in here, we can see that the search profile slots, she must have been playing with it some more, because we used to have search profile slots that included Spanish stuff. Maybe it's in mine. Here it is. So we'll get to regular. So now we have under here our, oh cool, fix that. So now we have our Spanish language and e-journals or Spanish content. And this is only available in the like official Spanish view that is separate from the regular Spanish view. And this makes it so that like the content that they have in Spanish that they have in this collection is what comes up when that is searched, whereas the normal view and even the Spanish view that we've got going right now doesn't. It just has so this one will default to Spanish. It's going to eventually load. Here we go. And it has the option to switch. So you can provide links to separate views if you want separate search things. You do not have to purchase language options. They are all available to everyone. I do know that some of them are in different so Seattle did go through and activate different languages for their different campus Primo views because their different campuses have different student populations. So they had to go in and okay, where was it? It was configuration general institution languages. They had to go in and turn on all the ones that they wanted in institution languages, and then for their different primos, what they did was they didn't. All of the languages are available for the Primo view. Let's take a look at theirs. But the language filters are different based on them. So we should see all of the different. Nope. So I don't know why that's not showing up on theirs because Kirsty very specifically activated certain language filters in their item discovery stuff. So let's take a look at how they have it done. And Kirsty's not here, is she? No, okay. Because she and I were like trying to figure out something was goofy about it, but we got it fixed. So they have it on institution languages. Oh, okay. So that was a totally separate thing that she was doing. So they didn't actually turn on the different languages. What they did was they did something with the facets, and I can't remember where the issue.
I thought the facets like
Yeah, so she added list of languages and then had to add the languages individually. Um, and that was where there was some issue because they got added um basically alphabetically, and they wanted to highlight some of these other ones, and so they had to like move them around. So
well like that's like search profile slots. That's separate from facets. Facets are like
mhm.
gonna be based on like what's in your search results, and those are gonna change like every time you search.
Yeah, but if you don't have, so like the default list of languages was
Hmm.
it didn't include some of the ones that they knew that their students would want and that they had content for. And so unless you add the languages, so like Salish, um unless they'd turned this on, even if they had Salish language materials, this language
Mm.
facet wouldn't show up in the
Mm.
facets,
Oh.
because it was just like the default ones. Um, so yeah, so there's basically three things that you can do to like make other language more accessible. One is turning it on for the institution. Two is creating a second um, like a copy of your view and adding different search profiles. Um,
Mhm.
and then another would be adding the facets. Now, if you've turned on the institution languages, you should then see the menu option in Primo to switch the language view. And I'd be very curious to gather some examples of how other libraries have highlighted that option. I think I've seen like resource recommender used to be like, would you like to see these results in Spanish, or would you like to like see this search page in Spanish, so they can click on that and it takes them to the Spanish language view of the same page. But that's got to be some pretty cool coding that pulls the current search into the link, so that they're keeping their search results and just changing the language of the page. Um, so go back to English. And yeah, so that's, sorry. This was, I don't know if this was helpful because I was kind of it's been a while since we kind of explored this, but um yeah, the biggest thing is like not everything will get translated automatically. So if you want specific things translated or specific differences, in addition to turning on the institution language, you do have to create a second discovery view to make those adjustments. Otherwise, you're just kind of getting the default ex libris translation of certain labels and content. Um, but like it's not a hard thing to turn on institution languages, especially if there's everybody's probably got at least two major non-English languages being used by students, um, that you could turn on, and it would allow them to at least find that in the menu for translation. And then you don't have to do anything else. Um, but um, and with the Big Bend search, let me log out of everything, and I'll show you kind of how we made the search profiles for that. And there's of course um, was they have a specific collection. but the Spanish e-journals was an interesting one. So part of the ProQuest package is the Iberoamerica. And so there are a number of Spanish language journals that are included in, I think, everybody's ProQuest subscription, and there are additional ones. So creating that, wait, nope. Where is it? Search profiles. So we did the custom local data scopes, and then here was our e-journals in Spanish. And so what we did was language equals Spanish. It was available electronic, and the resource type was equal to journal. And I believe 3 is the most number of scope conditions that you can add. But if you know that you have a Spanish language collection in the library, you could also, like if you wanted to add a like children's Spanish, we can add a language equals. And so these are all the ones that are default, Bobby, so you can see how many they do include. It's just they don't automatically include those as facet choices unless you add them. Oh, and Isaac said, so Lauren is Shoreline's UX librarian, and their group work indicated that most users were probably using their browsers to translate content. So, and I know I do that as well. So, maybe just creating a local search scope to highlight language collections within your catalog would be good. So here we've got language Spanish and inventory. We're going to say available physical exists. It's not even, we'll just call it Spanish books, because I don't want to try and find children's content. But if you have a specific location, it'd be easy. So now we have the Spanish books. So now we can add that data scope to a search profile. And we had, so this was a blended test where I combined Spanish content and or e-content and the HSI collection. And now we can also add the Spanish books to this and probably get even more. And we've saved that. And this one is in my test. Now we've got Spanish language. I gotta sort that out, but I know. So now you can see we have Spanish language materials, and it's not a ton. And this is just the physical because it is from their collection in the library, and then the books that I identified that had Spanish language. If we change this to the e-journals, Okay, so how many results did we have? We had 47. So now we see electronic journals in Spanish. And this is still, the rest of the interface is in English. So that's another way to highlight other language materials. And yeah. Well, and Isaac makes a good point in chat. So having browsers translate content really is just like the front end content. And it doesn't add metadata or sort, so you're not able to pull from records any kind of tagging that you've done, or assist students in finding materials that might be more accessible for them. So because, but you also have the option here. So here's the other thing. So advanced search, this any language, this is where you can also add additional languages here. So if we go in and we edit and we go to advanced search configuration and we've got languages, you can turn on any of these languages. You can also add like you can see that one only, like there's dozens and hundreds in here, but the basics they only give you like 30 to start with because not even 21, but you can add any of those additional ones. So adding additional language options to your advanced search, again, not a huge change. It doesn't disrupt anyone's, like visual memory of the page, but you are turning on the ability for users to search in a language that they are more comfortable in. I mean, like how many people are reading German? Uh, uh, but lots of European libraries use Ex Libris. But yeah, so like, if you have a lot of Chinese or Japanese or Korean students turning on Russian or Spanish or Ukrainian, you can add Ukrainian. Why, there it is. So now we've added that language option for all of our search scopes for advanced search. And so this is what I was talking about with Seattle. They were adding the languages and then their advanced search was defaulting to the last language added instead of any. And so then I was like, oh, well, we just have to reset the order. So now if we look at our view and we'll reload this. We're going to do all resources. Now we have Ukrainian and it shows up. What's funny is the default is the top of the list, but then under the default is alphabetical order. So if I kept Ukrainian at the top of the list, this would say Ukrainian, and then it would say any language, English, French, German. So, cool story. Ex Libris. So just move whatever additional languages you activate for advanced search under any language, or it could get very confusing for people who aren't reading closely. Yeah, there's really I think I started out saying there's like 2 great ways to add another language. No, there's a lot of great and easy ways to add language accessibility to your Primo view. What I really like about adding all of these languages is that then if you do have um, resource recommender or facets or search profiles or even Primo, different views with Primo homepages. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go to new basics, new search. So if you create homepages in Spanish, in Korean, then you can put resources specifically for English second language students and users onto those pages as like an additional way to connect with them. So if you have staff that speak those languages, or you have student services that are available that you can link to using the other like another view Primo homepage is a way to do that, because this content can be translated and added to however you want, in addition to just changing display language. So, and as I said, you can like pull a link to that different view up into your links menu. There might even be a way to add, well, I'm sure there's a way to do it, but to add change language link like in this section here, along with so like Abby, you guys have the different filters active.
I was like Teams chatting someone at the same time. What are you talking about?
I bet that there is a way to um do something with like these filters as well to do with language, because this is just JavaScript that's in the HTML, that's queued in the HTML. Oh, there's Leslie. So and this is, I mean, like, even having this simple content in um Spanish or another language could be helpful. There is also a way to create custom direct database codes for EBSCO, ProQuest, to highlight other language content. So like doing Ibero-America or Hispanic newspapers to highlight that. So yeah, I don't know. Today was a bit rambly. But I'd love to like if anyone have ideas of like what you might want to do, and we could like take a look at what that entails. Because I'd be happy to like dig into someone's environment. So yeah, and then I thought for sure we wrote stuff down when we talked about this last spring. I think the open call, it was a 2023 open call, and maybe it says, no, I want to see the full list. Letters. Dang it. One of these docs was the one where we discussed the Spanish language version, and I'll try and tag it somehow. But we'll have this recording, however helpful or not. And I'll try and find the documentation and then add the other things that we've talked about, as far as like adding institutional languages, creating duplicate live views of your Primo, linking to that versus using the language interface menu link, adding search scopes, adding search facets, and what else? Oh, and then I'll kind of do a summary of what gets automatically translated by Ex Libris and what doesn't, so that you can have an idea of whether or not you like want to tweak something with an additional view. But I think a great first step is going to configuration, going to general, going to institution languages, and turning on languages that you know that your users are using. And don't go crazy, but I'm sure a couple would be helpful. And then you can start to play with, where where users might need more help with additional languages, or if there's a way to pull out parts of your collection for English second language users or folks studying foreign language, although that seems to be diminishing by the day. My poor friend at Whitworth, who's the Spanish guy, like, is gonna be on his own here in a couple of years. They already downgraded French from a major. So but yeah, I don't know. Okay, so it must have been around August, because here's when I updated it. So let's see, is there an August? What's this one? E-resources. Okay, well, I'll look. I'll find it.
Are you gonna post it to the list, the full list?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
send it out, and I'll also I'm working on some additional documentation pages for our website, because right now we kind of just there's like the um Alma Primo support has like kind of this stuff, and then it has these things, but this is getting quite long and not related, and we need an accessibility page. So I think, foreign language, it's not foreign language, it non-English language resources and, like accessibility, that probably needs its own page, and I'll throw videos and documentation up there. But yeah, this really needs to be more built out to incorporate our Google Docs, because a lot of this stuff I know other schools are doing, and we just haven't even been able to find their documentation on how they did it, because like, oh, it's just assumed that everyone knows about this institution languages and how it impacts like the rest of your interfaces. So it's really hard to find that kind of like explanatory stuff. So if we can put it on the open web, it can be helpful for everyone. So I'm working on that, hoping to get a new independent of Big Bend website that will make it a bit easier to manage that stuff. So yeah, besides me getting all of this kind of together, and getting it out to you guys. Are there any specific questions or something you want me to like go over again before we wrap up for the day? Okay. Well, yeah, so I'll work on that. I'm working on a lot of like getting documentation visible things. Leslie and I are going to do an end of term calendar management documentation. I have learned that 15 schools do it one way and 6 schools do it a different way. And there's completely valid reasons for both ways. But if, someone just shows up and starts trying to manage circulation and policies, might be good to know, like, why do we do it this way? What are the pros and cons? Because it's pretty easy actually to like switch between the two ways if you were like, oh, we don't want to do it that way anymore. So we're gonna do that because I need accountability and I need to make it fun to do it. So, all right. Coming up, next week we have the second session of the e-resources cleanup. The first one, the second one is in August. We also will have in July, because it's almost July, the creating documentation workshop starts. The first session of that. Registration still open for everything. As soon as the workshop is completed, I'll be posting the videos. So next Wednesday, the 3rd, the videos for e-resources cleanup will be available on the YouTube page. And then we've got Wednesday drop-in. So if you want to, bring up anything or chat about a problem, I'll just be hanging out Wednesdays, 10 to 11. And even though this says January 2nd, it's just because it's the top of the list. And if you go to the playlist button on the right, you'll see like the whole list, and you'll get the most recent available. So, I wish it would just do the one that I uploaded last. But yeah. Okay. Well, if there aren't any more any questions or thoughts, we can stop